This is almost crazy to me because Fajeda opens up as the favorite, minus 120 right here. We're checking live odds. Not a major push, minus 130, plus 110 comeback for Phil Hawes. But I feel like, man, first off, Brunno Ferreira is still relatively new on the scene in the UFC, right? A couple years ago, I feel like you would look at this and you'd be like, what? You have Phil Hawes as a what kind of underdog? Like, are you crazy? But I think there's been one theme right here. Even though we've seen Phil Hawes, who has shown an acumen to be able to clinch up, you know what I mean? Use some of that grappling, slow down the fight, and then just use that amazing power that he has and kind of dictate where it goes. But we've seen one flaw, AJ, in Phil Hawes' game. What's the flaw?
Gas tank, brother. Gas
tank. What's the other flaw? What's the other flaw? The biggest one.
The biggest one? Are you talking hands down? What do you think?
I'm talking about the chin, brother. That's what I'm talking about. Look at who's across the cage from this man.
And he needs to worry about that too. Because I was actually watching it had to be the Iskram fight that I was watching. Yeah. It's once Phil Hawes gets a little, not necessarily tired, but in the mix, those hands just start to drop a little, and you're talking about an absolute knockout artist. You want to go see a crazy knockout. That Gregory Rodriguez fight, we've seen Brunno Ferreira get things done in that power. But the real thing to me right here is the distance. How is Brunno Ferreira going to be able to get on the inside to be able to do the damage he needs to do? Because if you're Phil Hawes, man, you stay away, you cut angles, and you hit him as hard as you can when he is entering. Do you see any other real big advantage? I know you're talking about the disadvantage of Phil Hawes, and yeah, it's the chin, it's a gas tank a little bit as well. But what do you think as far as advantages of Hawes?
I think that's really the biggest thing right here, man. I think that he gets into the mix him up, and then for whatever reason, as of late, the Roman Dolidze, the Ikram Aliskerov, man, let's look at the Chris Curtis fight, man. It's just you get caught, and the chin cannot handle those big explosive shots, right? And for whatever reason, listen, it is what it is, man. But I think that that's the downfall, because I've bet on Phil Hawes for many years, right? And that's always what it comes down to. I think that he has all of the advantages. He's got the grappling, he has the well-roundedness, and all of that. But gas tank, and you get clipped by one of these guys, and that's all it takes. But that's the thing too, man. I think that Brunno Ferreira, if this gets past the first round, the odds of Phil Hawes winning this fight is like exponentially through the roof. But that's the thing, is like, can you get past that first round? And Brunno Ferreira, if we're looking at him, look at the last fight, right? I was all in on him. Nursultan, right? Nursultan Ruziboev, right? The fucking ridiculous frame was able to keep him at super length, right? That's not what Phil Hawes is going to be able to do in this fight. You're going to have to be right there in front of the hands. And when it comes down to wrestling, Brunno Ferreira could grapple. So I think that it's going to be a really interesting matchup right here, but I don't think it's going to be a long one. Personally, I mean, let's take a look. Let's take a consensus look right here. 1.5. That's the over and under right here. AJ, are you going over or are you going under?
I'm going over, and I can imagine it's the minus money. Derek, what about you?
If you're going over, sir, then you're taking a long shot.
I'm going under. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm going under.
Yes. Under is minus 250 plus 200 comeback for the over 1.5 rounds, meaning that the odds makers think that this one is going to be short and sweet, and I would agree with them. Only way that this isn't is if Phil Hawes or Brunno Ferreira, which I don't really anticipate, but if Phil Hawes says, I did not come here to sit here and squabble with you, I came here to clinch you up, and I'm going to burn a whole round just clinching you, and then we're going to start feeling each other out after the arms got some lactic acid built in and all that stuff, and then now that we're both a little bit slower, let's go and fight. That's probably not the best game plan. I don't really think that that's what's going to happen, but it's not outside of the realm of possibility, correct?
Oh, absolutely. That could happen. And if we did, I would actually be very impressed if we saw Phil Hawes take on that kind of style of fight. Yeah, will it be boring to the casuals? Yeah, it's not the old Phil Hawes we used to see, but a win is a win. And if he can get the dub right now, this will be a big win for his career. I don't see it happening, but it could.
That's right. And if you look at the odds right here, plus 125 TKO prop for Ferreira, plus 200 for Hawes, plus a 950 decision for Ferreira, plus 650 for Hawes. So I think that's exactly what we're talking about. Like, if you look at those numbers and you take that and you extrapolate that and you put it into a paragraph, like we just did that right there for you guys. So that's probably the way that you should look at this fight. Now, I love anybody who's got a puncher's chance. And Brunno Ferreira got a hell of a puncher's chance, but let's not forget Phil Hawes does have that crack as well. But if it's two guys swinging and banging, who has been able to have a longer lasting chin? You would say arguably Brunno Ferreira. Then again, Hawes has been in the game longer, so it's hard to tell. AJ, do you have anything else on this matchup?
Man, I'm just excited. I think the UFC did a great job putting this as the start of the main card, because this is going to be absolute fireworks. Folks, do not blink.
That's right. And if you look at it, and I know 2024 just started, Duran win. That's Phil Hawes' last win. That was back in 2022, man. So quite some time ago. And then before that, it was Kyle Dawkins. But he does have a big win against Nasruddin Imavov. So can't count the man out. All right.